The Red Raiders fall in an offensive slugfest up at Hinkle Fieldhouse up in Indianapolis against the Butler Bulldogs in a 103-95 overtime thriller. What did we learn about the Red Raiders offensively and defensively? Who stood out? And what changes need to be had for Texas Tech moving forward? Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and notification bell. We're on our way to 9,000, trying to get there before the calendar turns to 2024. So if you're part of Red Raider Nation and want to be a part of the most engaging Texas Tech community here on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and, hey, tell your friends and family about us as well. We're giving you free daily content, whether that's game recaps, previews, recruiting updates, everything in between. We've got you covered right here on the Back to 12 podcast channel. And before we get into today's recap, I want to hear from you guys just from the jump. I know a lot of you guys watched the game. What's your one word to describe the Texas Tech men's basketball performance against Butler? Just one. I know some of y'all are just strictly going to say defense, but let me know down in the comments below on the pinned comment, what's your one word to describe the Red Raiders' performance against the Bulldogs up at Hinkle? All right, we talked about the score just a little bit. Let's talk about the offense, and then we'll go talk about the defense. Simple and plain, this is one of the best offensive performances Texas Tech has had in a while, but no, you're not reading that score wrong at the bottom of your screen. 103-95. First and foremost, yes, Texas Tech gave up 103 points. Second, yes, they did score 95 points and lose. That's not ideal. But you had Chance McMillian. He had 8 threes in this game, one shy of the single game Texas Tech record. He had 24 points, all off of threes, of course. Toussaint was absolutely tremendous, leading the ship, navigating it in every way Texas Tech needed it to be navigated offensively, right? 18 points, 12 assists. Also only had 2 turnovers, which was huge, right? Then you look at Pop Isaacs. He yet again made a last-second shot to help propel Texas Tech into overtime, where unfortunately Butler only missed 2 shots. But Texas Tech looked like they ran out of gas, and we'll talk about that more here in just a second. But Pop was again fantastic, 18 points, 4 assists, only 2 turnovers for the sophomore guard. Listen, this is overall offensively the best Texas Tech has looked all year. I thought they were tremendous in the pick and roll game, specifically Toussaint. They went to that small ball lineup again. This time they inserted Chance McMillian in there for Kerwin Walton, and it worked for long stretches. That is the lineup that got Texas Tech back into this basketball game when they were down 9 points at one point, right? That was the lineup that got them back in it. You had Joe, you had Pop, and then obviously you had Cambridge and you had Chance out there as well. And then they navigated the ship in terms of Darion and his foul troubles. He had 3 in the first half, but he came back out there, with about 7-8 minutes left in the second half. But they navigated the ship until he got back in. Then they went on a little run and got back in it with a tomahawk hammer slam dunk by Devin Cambridge to tie it at 65, which felt like an eternity ago in terms of the final score, right? But overall, you look at what Texas Tech did offensively in this basketball game. Only 7 turnovers. Turnovers have been a big point of emphasis for this team and a pretty big concern for me. I thought they were tremendous tonight. Now, can you expect only 7 turnovers every game? Probably not with how aggressive Texas Tech is. But it's good to see that they can play this way and not turn the ball over. So that was big, right? You had 23 total assists, the most you've had in a game this year. That's big. Now, obviously, the overtime component and making shots helps, but also spreading the ball around and spacing was really on full display offensively for the Red Raiders in this game, and it was a sight for sore eyes in terms of how they really spaced and navigated the baseline. That was something that really stood out to me in the sense that you had guys going baseline. You had Devin Cambridge as the big in the game, even though he's 6'6", plays bigger than that, in my opinion. I've talked about that since he landed at Texas Tech. But that's something that stood out as well. And then you shoot 50% from 3. I don't expect that, but I do expect this team to shoot much, much better. When I talked about overtime and this team kind of just falling flat, I really think it was just a minutes thing. I think they ran out of gas. You had 6 guys for Texas Tech play 27-plus minutes in this game. The next closest person was Kerwin Walton, who played 9. Okay, like I think they just ran out of gas And Pop and Joe played north of 40 minutes. They played longer than the entire game, right? Because of the overtime factor. For me, it's just one of those deals where it's like, okay, like offensively, this team will be fine, in my opinion. I'm really not worried about it when it comes down to it. They'll have some off shooting nights, but listen, Texas Tech is going to live and die by the three. Like it or not, spacing is going to be better. It's going to have some bad nights, this, that, and the other. We're going to talk about the negative aspect of things here in just a second from the standpoint of the defensive side, but there's just too many good shooters on this team for them not to shoot close to about 35, 36% as a team. And I think that they'll get there even after, the first 3 games of the year where they shot 20% from deep as a team. They're getting a little bit better. Now they head back home. Hopefully they can find a little bit of a rhythm before Big 12 play starts when the calendar flips to 2024. All right, let's talk about the defense. And it struggled mightily, I thought, against Butler. And personally, I feel like that's putting it nicely. Texas Tech went under on far too many pick and rolls. I mean, I thought that they were pretty bad when it came down to pick and roll defense. And Butler capitalized. Give credit to the Bulldogs on that. They either made shots or they noticed their guy was going under and they had an open look elsewhere, right? Their ball movement was tremendous. But they had modest team up there in Indianapolis, right? But the thing that really killed Texas Tech in this game was the rebounding discrepancy. Butler had 40 rebounds in this game as a team. Texas Tech had 24. That's a 16 rebound difference, right? And really where it rears its ugly head is the offensive rebounds and second chance aspects of this for the Butler Bulldogs. They had 13 offensive rebounds. Texas Tech had 6, right? And I know what some people are going to say, RC, you keep preaching this small ball lineup. How do they have a chance to rebound? I hear you. But even with Warren Washington on the floor, they struggled mightily on the boards. And I think for me, when you look at this, Warren's going to play, and rightfully so, right? You need to play him. But at the same time, I think there's so much more that benefits Texas Tech on both ends of the floor in terms of switchability on the defensive end and what they can do offensively when they go small. That's not saying that Warren should get, 5 minutes a game or anything. I'm not saying that at all. But I do think that there is a proponent of you just have smaller guys and there's power in numbers is basically what I'm saying. You crash the boards, you get 2 guys ready to go, and you got, 4 guys on the floor at any given time when you go small that can be the primary ball handler and get that fast break started, even if you send 3 to the boards to get the defensive rebound. But, man, Butler just seemingly got into the paint at will, whether that was off the pick and roll, whether that was just simply off the dribble, right? They did a great job at that, did the Bulldogs. And you look at this stat really stands out to me. The Bulldogs had a combined 16 made layups and dunks in this game. 32 points off of that, had a couple fouls too that they went to the free throw line. Believe you can add those free throws and it's 35. 35 points off of made layups and dunks, and then you get fouled off of those, right? Not ideal. And then Posh Alexander, the lead guard for the Bulldogs, was tremendous. Had a triple-double in this one. 10 points, 11 assists, and 10 rebounds. He was phenomenal. But the thing that really stands out defensively for me is this. Grant McCasland has talked about physicality a ton in his pressers, whether that's before the season started and during this season, even if it's young, right? And Texas Tech now sits at 5-2 on the year. It needs to continue to be, because I think Texas Tech got outmatched on the defensive end in terms of physicality from Butler. And listen, the small ball lineup is going to play more. It is, and I think that that's where Texas Tech is at its best. There's just going to be some tinkering from game to game. Tonight, you obviously saw Chance McMillian play a lot, right? Kerwin Walton played down in the battle for Atlantis, right? So you're going to see a lot more of that in terms of switchability from the small ball lineup. Again, I'm not saying that Warren shouldn't play, but look out for that, because I think that's where Texas Tech is best. And I think 7 games in, that's what we've learned most about this Texas Tech team, is that they play really, really well when Devin Cambridge is the small ball 5, and then you just space the hell out of the floor. All right, one more time. What's your one word to describe the Texas Tech men's basketball performance against Butler? Some of y'all are going to say defense, like I said, shooting, McMillian, whatever you want to say, let me know down on the pinned comment below. And if you haven't already, help us get to 9K before the calendar switches over to 2024. I think last I checked, we're about 80 away. Help us get there. Tell your friends and family about it if they're part of Red Raider Nation, and join the most engaging Texas Tech community here on YouTube in the Back to 12 podcast channel.